We all know and love the story of Berserk, and with it being my favorite manga and story of all time, I wanted to give my thoughts and predictions on how this massive behemoth of a story will end. Of course, this is just the thought of one fan among many, and while I'm not claiming I will get everything right here, I strongly believe there are some worthwhile predictions I'll be making, and maybe even some ideas you never thought of. So with the title of this video, what's that all about? Well, Griffith will eventually fall. He is the antagonist after all, and from a storytelling element, he has to fail. Now, not all stories follow this formula, and we've already seen Berserk to be a story that has subverted expectations time and time again. With the eclipse, the rebirth of Griffith, and the Berserker armor's introduction, we've been shocked more than a few times at this point. I think there are still some surprises to go with the ending of Berserk. To make it clear, I'm writing this at the time of the newest Berserk chapter being released on April 26th, so anything past that won't be in this video. To fully understand and predict how Berserk will end, and more specifically how Griffith will end, we have to fully understand how the world of Berserk works along with Griffith. I've made a video about the dichotomy of Guts and Griffith previously, so I won't go too in depth with what I've said before. What we have to realize and understand though is how evil works in this world. Yes, the concept of evil itself, not just the evil people who inherit it. The first part to look at is back in the Golden Age during the eclipse. You probably know where I'm going with this, and that is to look at the lost chapter, chapter 83. Now, before you say, this chapter isn't canon, you can't use it, just hold on for a moment and listen. After this chapter was initially released, Miura wanted it removed because he felt it gave away too much too soon. We can infer that this means Miura did intend to bring up the idea of evil at some point, just later in the story. So, I'm going to use this as evidence that the idea of evil is canon to the story and will directly affect it. And here's how. In chapter 83, we see Griffith learning much of the world, along with the idea of evil itself. The idea of evil is shown as a figure representing a heart, being pumped with the flow of calamity and malice of the world. It informs Griffith that it is a god, but not in the conventional way. It's a god formed from humans, a god of reason, a reason for humans to comprehend and understand. Its reason was to justify and account for the pain, sorrow, and violence in the world. Humans needed something to blame for, and evil was created. Evil says that it willed Griffith to this place, to this moment. While evil has never controlled Griffith's actions, it set him on the course to arrive at this place and time. What Griffith does going forward, however, is at his own will. He can be the savior or the destroyer. This chapter isn't long, but it gives a shitload of important information on how this world works. With Berserk, you have what I would say there are three planes of existence: the physical world, the astral world, and the abyss, with the abyss of course being the realm of evil we just saw. All of these worlds would end up aligning with each other, with the merge of the physical and astral worlds taking place, and the idea of evil being at the heart of all of it. It was with this power that Griffith was able to raise Falconia as his own kingdom, one in which humans and apostles live together. We know that all the inhabitants of Falconia see Griffith as a hero, one who brought life to the old kingdom, defeated the tyrannical Ganishka, and protected the world from the evil mystical creatures that now live with us. If you've seen my previous video on Berserk, I've mentioned how Griffith is a near parallel to the idea of the Antichrist from the Christian Bible. The Antichrist is seen as charismatic, trustworthy, strong, and all-powerful. He is the one to lead humanity under the pretense of hope and salvation, only to doom them soon after. That is where I think Berserk will do a twist on this though. Griffith is powerful because he is a member of the God Hand. We know that. And that's the thing. We know he's powerful. And so he is. But what if one didn't believe that? Now, I'm not saying that Griffith can be beaten by just wishfully thinking he's useless and wishing for you to kill him. We already have seen multiple people try to kill Griffith, and it doesn't amount to anything. But these were all attempted by people who knew Griffith was already powerful, at least to some degree. Guts knew he was a member of the God Hand, as well as all the apostles, and Ganishka realized just how powerful Griffith was as well, and even willingly, or not so willingly, bowed down to Griffith. Mule even did the same thing when he first saw him. Nearly all people of the world understand how powerful Griffith is. So why was the only person who has ever been able to lay a hand on Griffith be Rickert? Yes, I have to bring up the slap. To some, this may seem like nothing, but I truly believe there was a reason for Miura to have this. Rickert is the only being who has ever been able to even slightly injure Griffith. Not even Guts has laid a finger on the guy. And I believe this is because Rickert had no intention of hurting Griffith, but instead did it to dispel his frustration with him. Think about it. Every being that has tried to attack Griffith was always intending to kill. Guts, Zod, the Kushans, Ganishka, every one of these people went in with determination to kill Griffith. But Rickert simply didn't, and because of it, he was able to lay a hand on him. Now, does this mean that all Guts has to do is pretend he isn't trying to kill Griffith whilst attacking him, and maybe just wants to pat his old buddy real fucking hard on the back of the head? No, I don't think that would work. And that is because I don't think it is possible for Guts to be the one to decide Griffith's fate. See, the people of Falconia place an immense amount of love and trust in Griffith. At this point, he's basically king of the world, with Falconia housing nearly an entire country inside one city. He has so many followers and believers in his cause, it is only making his namesake more and more powerful. Think of it like Voldemort from Harry Potter. With Voldemort, even saying his name is seen as dangerous, as his power is so immense, even a name is too dangerous to speak. I believe a similar fate is happening with Griffith. He has become so powerful, with the mix of his name and power being spread to many, that his power is ever growing. This is where I go back to the idea of evil. The idea of evil mentioned that it needed to be created due to humanity's constant state of being, and that we needed an explanation for it. As long as there are people, evil will exist, and as long as there is evil, people will act on it. This tells us that the world of Berserk is one in which belief holds a lot of merit. This also wouldn't be the first time the power of belief has been in Berserk, as we saw back in Conviction that certain people couldn't perceive magical beings like Puck because they were stuck in their own strong beliefs. Tie this in with my prediction that Griffith can only be harmed by those unaware of his true nature and without intent to kill, and you may be able to see how this is plausible. Now hold on a second, you might be thinking. Rickert knew all about Griffith and what he became. Guts explained everything to him on the Hill of Swords. He did, but remember what Guts said to him. You can never really hate Griffith, not like me. Interesting, isn't it now? Rickert can never really hate Griffith as Guts does, and in turn, he was able to smack Griffith. Do you see where I'm coming from now? I truly believe that Griffith will only be able to be beaten by someone who doesn't harbor feelings of hatred and fear toward him like Guts does. Guts understood just how powerful Griffith was. He also harbors more hatred towards him than any character in the series. Ganishka hated Griffith, not to the extent Guts does, but still quite a bit. And what did hatred and violence lead to the creation of? The idea of evil. And the idea of evil only gives Griffith more power. However, maybe it's more likely to say that Griffith can't be killed by someone who hates him, but instead doesn't fear him. Keep this in mind for later. With all this, I wholeheartedly predict that Griffith will not be slain in some epic duel against Guts, as cool as that would be, but he will fall differently. I predict that Griffith will not die as Femto, or with the power of the God Hand. He will instead be brought down to the reins of a human once again. Now, this could only happen if there was a massive change in how the world of Berserk worked. As mentioned before, the idea of evil is what fuels hatred and evil in the world. The God Hand are servants of this idea, and only carry out its will of the world. While I can't say how it will take place, I believe that somehow the inhabitants of Falconia will perceive Griffith in a new light. Whether this be the eyes of distrust, or more importantly, disdain and apathy, Griffith will lose power over them. Evil and fear are what powers him, and the power his name holds alone fuels it. So you must take that away. We can't talk about Griffith's weaknesses without talking about Casca, of course. Most readers have assumed that Griffith took Casca to stop himself from leaving his kingdom as the Moonlight Boy, or to ensure she won't force him out at an inconvenient time. However, I think this will be a terrible mistake that Griffith will end up regretting. If Griffith does start to lose the power he has in Falconia, he would be at one of the weakest points we could ever see. I still don't think Guts would be the one to kill him though. It would instead be Casca. Think about it. Griffith has put so much power over Casca throughout this series. She started the story with a crush on him, realizing she never could get to be with him. She was then assaulted by him during the eclipse, putting her mind in a weakened state of fear and torment of him and the demons that came with it. After her mind was even restored, she would still see fear in him as he arrived at Elfhelm. Griffith knows that his Moonlight Boy form flocks to Casca, and he seemingly cannot harm her. He will continue to do his best to watch over her, and not let himself show a moment of weakness. But I think that is exactly what will happen. When the people of Falconia no longer fear Griffith, or better yet, no longer put their faith and power into him, Griffith will be at his most vulnerable. It will be up to Casca to decide if he holds any power left. She will be the last thing left for him to hold on to. In his last moments, he will do whatever he can to strike fear into her, clinging on to the last bit of control and fear into a person, to give him just enough power. He may even show himself as the Moonlight Boy, using whatever he can to manipulate her into giving herself up for him. But Casca will end up being stronger than he ever predicted, and she will be the one to end Griffith. While I'm sure most of what I'm saying may sound crazy and implausible, I do believe that Griffith will end in defeat, and even if it isn't in the way I'm predicting, it's just fun to theorize. So let me know what you think of my prediction. Do you have your own? Did you agree with the points I had? Or was this whole thing a jumbled mess of a theory? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.